Today, we're going to talk about something that many English learners don't realize is happening to them. You're not lazy. You're not stupid. You don't necessarily need more grammar books. You may simply be on cruise control.
Cruise control. That's a perfect way to describe it. You're moving, you're using English, you're having conversations, but you're not accelerating.
Think about a car. When you activate cruise control, the car keeps moving at a steady speed. You don't have to constantly push the accelerator. You can relax, and that's useful when you're traveling. But imagine trying to reach your destination faster while keeping the car permanently on cruise control. You're moving, but you're not really pushing yourself forward.
And that's exactly what can happen with English. You keep using the same words, the same sentence structures, the same expressions. You talk about the same familiar topics, and because people understand you, you feel like everything is fine.
But deep inside, you know something is missing. You think, why do I keep saying the same things? Why can't I express this idea more clearly? Why do native speakers sound so much more natural? Why do I understand complicated English but struggle to produce it?
And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the problem isn't that you don't know enough English. The problem is that you're not challenging your English anymore.
That's powerful, because there's a huge difference between using a language and developing a language.
Exactly. You can use the same 500 words every day and communicate perfectly well. But communication alone doesn't guarantee growth.
If your environment never pushes you, your English can become comfortable, and comfort can become a trap. Now, let me make something clear. Being comfortable isn't bad. If you're happy with your English level, if English does everything you need it to do, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with staying where you are.
But what if you have a bigger goal? Maybe you want to work for an international company. Maybe you want to study abroad. Maybe you want to give presentations in English. Maybe you want to speak confidently with native speakers. Maybe you simply want to sound more natural.
Then staying on cruise control isn't enough. You need something that pushes you. And one of the most powerful things you can add to your English learning is a role model.
Someone whose communication makes you think, wow, I want to speak like that. I wish I could explain ideas that clearly.
I love the way this person tells stories. I like the way they use words. I like their confidence. And that feeling is important because when you genuinely admire someone's communication, learning stops feeling like homework. You don't have to force yourself to watch them. You want to watch them.
And that changes everything. Imagine you find a speaker you genuinely enjoy. You watch one video, then another, then another. You hear the same person again and again, and slowly you begin noticing patterns. Their rhythm, their pauses, their pronunciation, their sentence structures, the way they introduce an idea, the way they disagree, the way they tell stories, the way they explain difficult things simply.
And eventually, something interesting happens. You start remembering their expressions, not because you sat down and memorized a vocabulary list, but because you heard those expressions in a meaningful context.
Let's say you always say, I think this is very important. That's perfectly correct. But maybe you hear someone you admire say, what really matters here is, now that expression catches your attention.
You hear it again and again. And eventually you start using it. What really matters here is the way we communicate.
Suddenly, your English has another tool, another way to express the same idea. And that's how your language becomes more flexible.
Here's another example. Maybe you always say, I don't agree. That's fine. But you hear someone say, I see your point, but I look at it differently. That's different. It sounds more nuanced, more conversational. And now you've learned something much more valuable than a single vocabulary word. You've learned a way of thinking in English.
And this is the part I really want you to understand. Don't only learn words, learn patterns. Learn how people build thoughts. Learn how they connect ideas. Learn how they tell stories. Learn how they disagree. Learn how they express uncertainty. Learn how they show enthusiasm. Learn how they sound when they're confident.
Because fluency isn't just about knowing more words, it's about having more ways to express yourself.
Think about it. Two people can know the same vocabulary, but one person sounds natural while the other sounds robotic. Why?
Because the natural speaker has absorbed thousands of patterns. They know what words naturally go together. They know how ideas are usually expressed. They've heard those patterns so many times that eventually they become automatic.
And this is why finding the right role model can be so powerful. But there is a warning.
Yes, and this warning is extremely important. Do not copy everything.
Exactly. Your role model is not supposed to become your personality. You're not trying to become a clone. You're trying to become a better version of yourself.
Imagine you find someone who uses incredibly sophisticated vocabulary. You start copying every difficult word they use. Suddenly, you're talking to your friends like you're giving a university lecture.
And everyone is thinking, why is this person talking like that?
Exactly. You may sound intelligent, but unnatural, and that's not the goal. The goal isn't to sound impressive. The goal is to sound clear, natural, confident, and appropriate.
That's an important distinction. A word can be correct and still be the wrong word for the situation.
Exactly. Imagine your friend asks, "How was your weekend?" and you respond, "It was an exceptionally stimulating recreational experience."
Technically, maybe, but please don't do that.
Just say, "It was great," or "I had a really good time."
Natural English isn't about using the biggest word available. It's about choosing the right word.
So when you find a role model, ask yourself 3 questions. First, would I actually use this expression? Second, does it fit my personality? And third, does it fit the situation?
If the answer is yes, keep it, use it, practice it, make it your own.
And here's another secret. Don't only listen, steal the structure.
Steal a structure?
Not literally steal, but observe how the person builds an idea. For example, maybe they often say, "At first I thought X, but then I realized Y, and that's when Z changed." That's a beautiful structure. You can use it for your own experiences. At first, I thought learning vocabulary was the most important thing, but then I realized speaking was more important, and that's when my learning changed.
That's powerful because you're not memorizing someone else's story. You're borrowing the framework and filling it with your own ideas.
Exactly, and that's how imitation becomes creativity. First, you copy useful patterns, then you adapt them, then, eventually, you create your own.
This is actually how many skills develop. You watch someone better than you observe, you imitate, you practice, you make mistakes, you adjust, and eventually the skill becomes yours.
So, here's a challenge for you. Find one English speaker you genuinely admire. Not 5, not 20, just one. Someone whose communication makes you think, "I want to become better at this."
And then don't simply watch their videos passively. Watch differently.
Exactly. Take a short clip, maybe 30 seconds, listen once, then listen again. Ask yourself, how did they start the sentence? What expression did they use? Where did they pause? Which words did they emphasize? How did their voice change? How did they connect one idea to the next?
Then repeat it.
Yes, say it yourself. Not perfectly, not beautifully, just try.
And record yourself, because there is something strange about hearing your own English. When you're speaking, you may think, that sounded pretty good. Then you listen to the recording, and suddenly you notice, wow, I pause too much. I repeat that word constantly. I always say, my sentences are too short. I need to work on my pronunciation.
And that isn't failure, that's feedback. Your recording is a mirror. It shows you what you can't always hear while you're speaking.
And remember, you don't need to sound exactly like your role model. Maybe they have a British accent. Maybe you have an American accent. Maybe they speak very quickly. Maybe you speak more slowly. That's okay.
You're not trying to become them. You're trying to learn from them. Take their clarity, take their useful expressions, take their confidence, take their storytelling ability, take their structure, but keep your own personality.
Because the ultimate goal isn't, I want to sound like someone else. The ultimate goal is, I want to sound like myself, but better.
That sentence is worth remembering. I want to sound like myself, but better. More precise, more flexible, more confident, more expressive.
And that's how you escape cruise control, not by studying 12 hours a day, not by memorizing 500 words tonight, not by buying another course you never finish.
But by deliberately putting yourself in an environment where your current English isn't enough. Find people who are slightly ahead of you. Listen to them, study them, imitate them, question what they say, adapt what you learn, and then use it in real conversations.
Because input gives you possibilities, but output turns those possibilities into skills.
Exactly. You can watch 1,000 English videos, but if you never speak, your mouth doesn't get the training it needs. You can memorize thousands of words, but if you never retrieve them, they may remain passive knowledge.
That's why after watching your role model, do something. Explain what they said, summarize the video, give your opinion, tell a friend about it, record yourself, use one new expression, then use it again tomorrow.
Because the moment you use a new expression, it stops being someone else's English. It starts becoming yours.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson of today's conversation. Your English doesn't always need more information. Sometimes it needs new influence.
New voices, new ideas, new vocabulary, new sentence patterns, new ways of thinking.
And sometimes one person can completely change the way you see your own English.
So, ask yourself today, who is your English role model? Who makes you stop and think, wow, I want to communicate like that?
Maybe it's a YouTuber. Maybe it's a podcaster. Maybe it's a teacher. Maybe it's an actor. Maybe it's a journalist.
Maybe it's someone you work with. Choose one. Listen to them, study them, and don't just admire their English. Use it as a map.
Because you don't improve by staring at the destination. You improve by moving towards it.
And if you've been on cruise control for months, maybe it's time to press the accelerator again.
Start small. One speaker, one video, one expression, one conversation, one day, every day.
Then another. And eventually you'll notice something. The words that once felt difficult start appearing naturally. The sentences that once felt complicated start becoming automatic. And the conversations that once made you nervous start feeling easier.
Not because you suddenly became smarter, not because you memorized the entire dictionary, but because you stopped simply collecting English and started living in it.
So remember this. Don't stay comfortable if your goal requires growth. Find people who inspire you. Learn from the way they communicate. Filter what you learn. Adapt it to your personality. Practice it in real life. And keep moving.
Because fluency isn't a finish line, it's a direction.
And the question isn't, how much English do I know? The better question is, what can I do with the English I know?
That's the difference between knowing a language and actually owning it.
So, before you leave, here's your challenge. Choose one English speaker you admire. Watch one short video today. Write down 3 expressions you genuinely like. Say each expression out loud, then use at least one of them in your own sentence. And tomorrow, do it again.
One speaker, 3 expressions, one conversation, every day.
That's how you get off cruise control. Not overnight, but consistently.
And one day, someone may listen to you and think, wow, I wish I could speak English like that.
And when that happens, you'll realize something. You didn't become someone else. You simply became a more powerful version of yourself.
Keep learning, keep speaking, keep experimenting, and most importantly, don't let comfortable English become the ceiling of your potential.
We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep speaking English.
And keep growing.